Hello, YouTube. So, when I moved back to the US last summer, there were a few things that I was worried about, things that I knew could really derail my plans. And one of those was getting caught up in the US healthcare system, having something medically go wrong, and it really wiping out my plans for coming here and making some money. And it has happened. I am sitting outside of the urgent care right now. I'm about to go in for my third appointment. I got hurt at work. Was lifting some tools out of my vehicle after I had just driven from Portland, Oregon, or I'm sorry, from Southern California back to Portland, Oregon, and was unloading the tools at the Airbnb that my work had rented me. And I gave myself a hernia. I didn't know immediately that it was a hernia. I felt something wrong. I felt something strange inside. Painful, like pain's not quite the right word. It just felt wrong and uncomfortable. And it was later that night. I did what I always do. I just tried to ignore it. Went to bed, couldn't sleep, and it was later that night when I was like, oh, my any belly button has become an outie. And little research, basically diagnosing myself online. I looked up that description, and sure enough, it's an umbilical hernia. And I've now had an ultrasound that has confirmed that I've got not only an umbilical hernia, but another small hernia in my groin. And there's a lot of unknowns. I was really disappointed in my employer because their immediate reaction, they're like head of health and safety, their immediate reaction was, that's not a work injury because you weren't on a job site. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work like that. I'm on a trip for work and I'm unloading company tools from a vehicle the company's rented to put them into the Airbnb you guys have rented under instructions from management not to leave the tools in the trucks, right? So that is work. I wouldn't be doing this activity just for fun. It's not like I'm on a business trip and I go into a restaurant and slip and get hurt. So I knew obviously this is a work injury, but my employer insisted that it is not, and did something pretty strange. They wouldn't even let me fill out, an accident report. They wouldn't let me report it. They wouldn't, they insisted I had to put it on my own insurance. And that's not all totally resolved yet. The clinic I went into, they're this Concerta place. Their, front desk staff was great, and they helped me kind of walk through what to do when your employer is not meeting their legal obligations to report a workplace injury. And so I went around and looked up using a tool that the state of Oregon has for looking up the insurance that they have for their workers' comp insurance, and filed my claim directly with them. But there's I feel like my employer is probably going to fight this, and it may end up being a legal battle, and I may be stuck between my private insurance that says, no, that's a workplace injury, you need to, it needs to be paid for by them, and their insurance that are like, no, it's not, we don't have to pay it either. And I might be stuck fighting for years to get my bills taken care of, and that's something that can ruin your credit. It can can potentially get your wages garnished. You can end up losing time and energy fighting it in court. So here I am caught up in the US healthcare system, and basically realizing one of my worst fears about being in the US, and that's despite being able to make a fair amount of money here, still getting financially wiped out because it's such a broken healthcare system. And I can't help but compare and contrast to Ecuador. I have my complaints with the Ecuadorian healthcare system. I really wish the standards of care were higher. I wish I wish a lot of things, but it's accessible. I would have already had my surgery if I was in Ecuador. I would have, get a hernia, go and see a doctor. They send you for an ultrasound. I'd probably get that ultrasound the same day. Later that week, I'd be having my surgery. That's how it works there. It's very quick. It's very accessible. I spoke with my wife about it. She's like, I checked. It's about $1,200 for the surgery, right? So like, my deductible for my insurance is $3,000 if my insurance even pays for this, which they won't because it's clearly a workplace injury. Now, if I successfully get this workers' comp claim approved, I shouldn't have to pay for any of this, but it's a big if. My employer has shown every sign that they really do not care what the ultimate result is or what their responsibility is, that they're going to fight this tooth and nail. So I am a little apprehensive and in many ways regretting my decision to come back to the U.S. and put myself, in this situation. It's a gamble. If you've been comfortably living overseas and for whatever reason you need to come back to the U.S., it is a gamble. You're gambling that nothing's going to go wrong. And I have always been really lucky with health issues. I haven't always taken care of myself very well, and I've definitely been through some stuff that should have had terrible outcomes, but I've never broken a bone. I've been really, really, really lucky. I've never been hospitalized. I've never, other than a couple little elective surgeries, I've never had a surgery. I've been incredibly fortunate, and so I gambled that I could come back to the U.S. and do all right here and make some money. And looks like I may have lost that bet. So here I am. I gotta go in, talk to the doctor, see when she's gonna refer me to get a surgery. Boy, sun's really shining in my eyes here, huh? Gotta talk to the doctor and find out how long I gotta wait to get this surgery and how I'm gonna schedule it around my work. I'm supposed to, in about a week, go back to Southern California for a job there. If I'm bouncing all around the country for work, it's really hard to schedule this surgery. I'm still working. I'm on light duty. I'm not allowed to lift more than 10 pounds. And that brings up, how do I travel from place to place? It's going to be really, there are ways I can get all my tools into and out of the vehicle. But it involves making a lot of trips because I'm not allowed to carry more than 10 pounds. Man, the sun. All right, I gotta go talk to the doctor. I'll be back in a minute. Well, that went about as badly as possible. So, in my ultrasound, they had done the abdominal ultrasound because that's where I was having my symptoms. And the doctor had also called for ultrasound of my groin area to look for any other hernias. And they found one. On one side, they found a small hernia. On the other side, they found, I'm not exactly sure how to interpret the language, but I suspect something that is kind of like a pre-hernia. It's almost a hernia, but not quite. And they, of course, found the main hernia. That was the reason I went there. So all of these results were sent to the doctor, and this morning, I had expected that she would have reviewed them because she'd had them for several days, but she hadn't. At first, she was flustered and acted like she had just not received the results, and I was like, yes, you have. And she disappeared for a while. She came back and told me I don't actually have an umbilical hernia, that I have a groin hernia. And I was like, no, I've already looked at these results. They clearly say I do have an umbilical hernia. And I realized the paperwork that showed, because there was two separate documents, one describing the umbilical hernia, the other describing the groin hernia on one side and the thing that is almost a hernia on the other side. And she was thinking that description was talking about my umbilical hernia and saying it's not actually an umbilical hernia. And I had to stop her and be like, look, I'm not even a doctor, and I can see you're misinterpreting this paperwork. Like, look, here's what it says. Here's where it says it. It's very clear. So this appointment was supposed to just be to get a referral for surgery. Instead, it turned into a little bit of a just chasing our tails. And then when I got out to the front desk, they were like, okay, we need to schedule your follow-up appointment in 3 weeks there. And I'm like, why am I going to do a 4th appointment with this doctor when, like, what needs to happen next is surgery, right? Like, she's already, been clear about that. So I had to fight for it. I had to argue to get a referral for a surgeon. And, like, they can't even give me, like, I guess I got to wait until mid next week before I'm even in the referral system to find out when they can schedule me, but it's probably going to be months out, which is good and bad. I mean, the good is I got time to go on this trip to California for work and come back. The bad is I don't know if my employer's plan is to have me come back. I don't know where I'm going to be months from now. And I think, like, long story short, I'm going to need to work with my employer to make sure that they keep me sort of in the area so that I can, I guess, go to my mom's house, have the surgery near there, and recover at my mom's house, because I don't think I'm going to be able to take care of myself for a couple days. I'm not sure. I don't really know what you do if you have an umbilical hernia surgery and you're just all on your own. You got nobody to, like, help you out a little bit. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to work, but it's frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating. Clearly, there is not the attention to detail and the time taken with the patients to, like, understand and give good patient care. Now, I mean, I know that's not the whole U.S. medical system. This is what people will refer to as a doc in the box. It's the kind of place that you go to quick, a little urgent care place when you have a workplace injury. It is not the sort of place where you would go to get a primary care doctor. And I know that there's good doctors out there that focus on patient care rather than the bottom line. They're focused on providing for their patients. But it seems like in the U.S. system, that attitude and that kind of care is disappearing. It's dying. It's losing out. And instead, it's being replaced by this business model of just grabbing as much money as possible as fast as you can. And in the order of priorities, like, patient care and doing the right thing is really far down on the list. So could be worse. I could be uninsured, and this could be something that isn't a workplace injury, and I could be looking at bankruptcy just because I'm in the U.S. and I've got a medical issue. As unlucky as this is, it's also pretty damn lucky. So there's that. But the journey continues, and it definitely takes being pretty assertive and alert and, like, watching what the doctors are doing. Like, this lady would have really screwed me if I let her, like, misinterpret those ultrasound results and tell me I did not have an umbilical hernia. She was going to send me to refer me to just have surgery on the other very minor, I think, symptomatic hernia. Like, I wasn't aware it was there, whereas this main one, I am very aware it's there. She was going to send me to go get surgery on the wrong thing. Whether I also need a surgery on that smaller hernia is another question, and whether that is covered by workers' comp is another question. I don't really know. I don't know the answers to those. A lot of unanswered questions, a lot of things that are unclear. Yeah, U.S. healthcare system, it is a nightmare getting caught up in it, and here I am. So that's what's going on in my life right now. Talk to you later, YouTube.